Now, we're talking about maintaining a healthy work-life balance. It's often a juggling act, especially if you've got children. So news that all parents with children aged up to 16 will have the right to request flexible working hours, going to be welcomed by many, but not by all.
No. Not everyone's happy at all. In fact, many small businesses think it would be completely unmanageable in practice. We'll discuss it in a moment. First, let's take a quick look at what some of you think.
If we have flexible hours, I'll be able to go back to work as soon as possible. Maybe, I can put my child to the daycare and there is flexible hours, maybe like the early morning, 8 till 2 in the afternoon.
I can see it working in other manufacturers, yes, no problem at all, because you got shift work, you got maybe solicitors, maybe doctors, fine, but in the retail environment, I don't know.
No, I think it's a good idea. I mean, I think the days of kind of 9 to 5 are gone, and depending on when your kids are at school, you need to be adaptable.
Well, if I had any children of my own, I would think I'd probably like to work 2-3 days a week, so that allows me time to actually spend with my children.
I have no problem with that. Most people I know in the business profession actually prefer to pick up the slack for people who have families, because they respect that when they have families, it's going to be dealt with the same way.
Some of your views. Let's hear from Dan May now, running an IT consultancy, and Angie McClure, who works flexible hours at a children's centre. Hello to you.
Morning.
Hi. Morning. Angie, how did you do it? How did you get it?
It was about 2 months ago now. I was working as a youth worker, which was evenings, which just wasn't practical anymore now that I'm on my own. So I applied for a job at Carousel Children's Centre, which I believed, working for the charity for children, is going to be one of the most child-friendly companies to work for.
How old are your children?
I have a 5-year-old and 2-year-old.
And that really makes a difference to the way you can work.
Definitely, and even unexpected things like when I had to pick the eldest one up from school the other week, and that was fine. I had to go home early. I made the hours up later.
You'd kind of expect that from a children's welfare charity, wouldn't you? But
Definitely.
From an IT firm, slightly different. You've got 30 people in your company, haven't you?
Absolutely, and I think we recognise that, I think every good employer recognises that to be flexible and open with staff is really important, and fundamentally we support flexible working. I think where it becomes difficult is this is another government legislation affecting employee rights, and it's all very expensive and administratively heavy for small businesses. And the difficulty is, as much as we would all like to be able to agree to every request for flexible working, at the end of the day, as a business, we can only be a good employer for people to deliver the service to our clients and therefore remain, profitable.
But you're going to have to, aren't you? If somebody now asks you for flexible working and they've got children aged up to 16, you're going to have to give it to them.
Well, the regulations actually require us to give it consideration. The regulations don't actually ask you to necessarily agree to every case. You have the right to look at the business needs. But yes, it does become very difficult, particularly in the IT industry, where recruiting staff is really difficult. At the end of the day, if we're not able to offer flexible working, then our competitor is. So yes, we are a little bit forced, really.
Some harder-hearted employers would say we're in the business of employing people for the benefit of the company, not for the benefit of the workers.
Yeah, definitely. I can totally understand that. I mean, when going for a new position, I was originally going to go full-time. I had to ring them and say, look, it's just not financially viable for me to work full-time. The cost of childcare, the cost of living, I'd have been losing out about £70 a week. So I put that clearly down, that I was going to need to negotiate part-time hours.
Let me take you back on that a second. If you're working more hours, you get paid more. So how would it not have worked out financially?
Because unfortunately the tax credit system means that I would have got less help with my childcare, and childcare is very, very expensive.
Just going back to that point about now it means you can ask for flexible working, but it doesn't necessarily mean that business is going to give it to you.
Yeah.
Will it really make that much difference in the workplace? Because businesses like yours can say, yeah, well, thanks very much for asking, but no.
I think the thing is, flexible working doesn't just necessarily mean having to work less days. I think flexible working could be as simple as saying, start later to fit in the school run, or use technology to enable people to work from home occasionally. So flexible working isn't necessarily about working less days. I think
but what I'm saying is, small businesses now, any businesses, aren't compelled to do it if they're asked to. If employees want to work fewer days, employees all want to work fewer hours in the day, the
No.
businesses aren't compelled to give it to them. It won't really change things.
And this regulation isn't new. Actually, for a few years now, this right has existed for parents of children up to the age of 6. What's new here is we're extending that to 16. 90% of cases that have been applied for so far, flexible working has been granted, which I think does indicate that actually, although it's actually administratively quite difficult for small businesses, people do feel that they have to give that right.
Right.
All right. Thank you both
Thank you very
much.
much.
Thank
Dan.
you.
Thank you, Andrew. Nice to see you both.
It's